Okay. And I'm about to admit everybody. I can't see my script when I do that. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar. We're just about to get started. Feel free to put on your video if you'd like. We're going to keep ourselves muted because our mics tend to take up sound really well. So welcome, and I'm Rebecca. I'm the communications wizard here at Round Sky for those who haven't met me. I'm excited to be here with you all to interactively assess facilitation and leadership skills for healthy and stronger cooperation and collaboration together. So first off, I want to tell you all a little bit about our work so you know kind of who you're talking to and who we are. And I'm going to share my screen so you'll have a little more of a visual. So bear with me while I hit that button. Share. All right. You can see that? Yep. Okay. I'm seeing nods. Great. So Round Sky is a worker-owned cooperative that works with leaders, aspiring leaders, and organizations that value and want to improve their democratic and participatory processes in their teams and also hone in on their leadership potential, which is part of why we're all here. We do that through our courses, through coaching and team or company-based trainings, which is all grounded in our collaborative operating system, which we call CoLab. And you'll hear more about that through the practices that we offer and suggest throughout this webinar and that we're going to dive into. So we've worked with many people and teams on the art of assessing facilitation and assessing our leadership skills together so that they can better lead with and along other leaders in their team while still making movement on their work. It doesn't have to stagnate us. And often collaboration and cooperatives get a bad rap for not being efficient, but in lots of ways, they're much more efficient than traditional and hierarchical businesses and organizations. But I'm probably preaching to the choir here. And part of that is, to us, is continuously growing together. So many of you on this call are from the cooperative movement, from the new economy movement, from teal organizations, and other areas, and we're all connected on assessing and improving our leadership together today. So welcome. And if you didn't see the short email before this, before we do introductions, please grab a pen or paper or have a screen open so we'll have some free writing time during this webinar, which may be helpful. So if you have one next to you, great. If you don't, grab one. It'll just be for your own benefit, not as much for us. And so while you do that, I want to kind of orient you to the space so you know how to use this. So some logistics for those who haven't used Zoom. If you have any questions or to answer our questions, you can type them in the chat box, which I will send you all a chat now, so it'll ping you. And my name is Rebecca, but on here it'll show up as Round Sky. So if you have any questions that you want to direct towards me, you have an option. You can go to everyone or just to Round Sky or even just to someone else on the chat if you'd like to follow up with them about something. And that you can find via the speaking bubble on your toolbar. It may be on the top of your screen or on the bottom, depending on what your screen looks like. And this webinar is being recorded so we can share it with you afterward, along with some people who couldn't make it today. So just know that it's being recorded. And if you say anything today, just let me know that if you don't want it to be shared, we might get a little vulnerable. And we'll also have breakout groups that won't be recorded, so you can feel free to be as candid as you'd like in there. So in general, like I said earlier, for those who just jumped on, we'll be keeping everyone on mute so that we can focus on like one mic, literally. So now I want to give us some space to get to know who's on the call. So go ahead and use the chat box if you're willing. and tell us your name, which city or place you're calling from today, and a question you're coming with. And then I'll read out a few for those who may be on their phone and not here present with us. So I'll start it out here. Hear my typing. So we have Anne from Somerville, Massachusetts, Evelyn in Kingston, New York. I'm sorry if I mispronounce anything, anyone's names or areas. Lindsay from Philadelphia, Chris from Charleston with Sustainable Economies Law Center, Lindsay with the Alliance for Appalachia from Virginia. Awesome, welcome. And there's more introducing themselves. Anna from Sweden. Great. California, New York. So we're from all over here. That's awesome. And feel free to say hello to each other if you're close by, if you're curious. And so I'll go ahead and introduce myself as we keep going and just tell you a little bit more about who I am. So as I said, I'm the communications wizard here at Round Sky, and I've been working with this cooperative for about 2.5 years now. And what brought me to this work is the importance of process and structure to get us where we want to be. And I also wanted to enter the worker co-op more fully to gain a better understanding of what economic justice looks like for me, as I come from a fragmented class background. And I currently live and have been in New Orleans for about 5.5 years, but I'm originally from California. And outside of Round Sky, I do anti-racist organizing with a collective here. I play volleyball, and I study for hours in my master's program in cooperative management. And I'm really excited to be a part of this conversation today because I've found that these practices that we'll share with you have been really helpful for me personally for tapping into my self-awareness and for making progress on where I want to grow. So today's webinar will be co-led by Cecile Green, and I'll let her introduce herself to you all and tell us a little bit more about what brought this topic of personal development practices for collaborative leaders up for her. Go ahead.
Thanks, Rebecca, and welcome everyone. I'm really happy to be here with you all today. I'm Cecile Green. I'm one of the co-founders of Round Sky Solutions, and I live near Montpelier, Vermont. I've been a social entrepreneur for over 30 years now, and part of why I came to this work is just having experienced a lot of challenging organizational environments, including poor facilitation and cooperative leadership skills, and really motivated by the waste of time and energy, creativity that ineffective collaborative communication represents. I took up a deep dive into organizational and individual development in search of an answer. I was particularly curious about what power is and cognizant of how critical awareness of power dynamics is to effective cooperative leadership. And from there, as part of my research, I developed some theories about power to map or explain the dynamics I commonly saw at play in our cooperative organizations. And so I synthesized the research I'd been doing with my career experiences, and from that synthesis, I created a map of what organizations are already communicating about and need to communicate about, and a set of processes called CoLab that reliably delivers healthy forms of power in action, including much more fun, engaging, and effective facilitation and leadership practices. I published this work in Collaboration That Works, a ruthlessly practical handbook for a generative world. And it's a training manual that really summarizes both the research and introduces the CoLab practices for all kinds of organizations. So today, just to give you a little bit of a highlight overview of what we're about to do here together, we'll be exploring one of CoLab's 7 conversations that all organizations have for effective communication. And that one conversation that we'll be focused on today is our personal facilitative leadership development. And we'll start this webinar by looking at the big picture of personal development. and then dig into 3 key ideas that our research has shown to be essential for effectively assessing and building your facilitation and leadership skills. We'll weave in some interactive activities from journaling to small group breakouts so that you get a chance to explore what you're learning about yourself on this call. And we'll wrap up with some next steps and a Q&A towards the end. After today's webinar, we'll be sending you some of the recommended next actions and links to resources that we mentioned and opportunities for further training and support with us. And so back to you, Rebecca.
Great. Thanks, Cecile. So we're going to do a little activity before we launch into some of that content. So I wanted to invite those of you on the call to share one word, and I'm going to use this. I'm going to stop this share, and if anybody's used a whiteboard before on this platform, it's pretty cool. So I'll share with you here. I have a test here. You can see. So I'll just clear that. It's very fun. You can scribble if you want. And I would like to invite you to share one word or a short phrase that represents what personal development means to you. So to do that, you'll go under view, go to that toolbar where you can mute and unmute yourself in your video, and go to view options, and then you'll see a little, should be like a whiteboard marker that says annotate. And then you can click, it'll pop up a little toolbar, and you can click something and you can type in. So one word that represents, and then we'll just all put it on here together. So go ahead and do that if you are comfortable with the instructions. If you can't figure it out, if it's just a little too much tech, you can just put it in the chat box and we'll read it off. And then you have to click outside of it once you type. So we'll go with that. And if you're on the phone right now, you can't chat box, you can open your line if you'd like and say a word or a phrase, and I'll type it in for you. So we have lifelong learning, self as instrument. Yes, I'll repeat the instructions. For finding the whiteboard marker, you go to your toolbar and go to view options, and there should be a whiteboard marker, a little dry erase marker that says annotate, and that will pull up another text.
And for some of you, this view options may be at the very top of your screen. You may have to move your cursor up to the top to have it pop down. It says view options, there's a little arrow there, and you click down on that. And annotate is the second to last from the bottom.
Oh, looks like we got it. Great. So we have self-awareness, improvement, ever-evolving, presence. Yes, these are really wonderful. A word that I think of on the other end is hard. Nice. Right? It's difficult. It can be challenging. Humility, yes. Ego comes up for me as well. Roller coaster, absolutely. I like to think of, I'll add this one, a spiral. It's not linear often for me. I come back to things in different ways. Be best. Maybe be your best self, be the best you can, yes. So I'll save this and I can share with you. Maybe that will be an inspiration for yourself. And thanks for doing that. And now I want to invite you all to think about what are the challenging experiences you've had with this, right? It's all of these things, especially when it works out. And what's been challenging? What maybe, what's a roadblock? And you can put that on a new one here, or you can put it in the chat box if it's a little too long. So something that's been something that has been challenging or a roadblock. Finding out what the next topic in life learning actually is. Culture. I'll put one here. I'm going to put time up here. Time. Put another one. up here. Competing priorities. Someone's mentioned energy. I'll put that on here too. Kind of a nice visual to see it all together, I think. Great. Learning how to overcome blind spots. Absolutely. Difficult absorbing feedback. Maybe ego comes up here too. Self-doubt. Yeah.
Nice.
Ingrained patterns. Yes. Great. Thanks for sharing. I'll save that too and share it with you all. Growing ourselves while encouraging and coaching others to grow as well. Yeah. Free falling, not having a sense of the journey ahead. Great additions. Great. Well, stop that for now, and now we'll get into a little bit more of this. I'll pass it back off to Cecile.
Thank you, everyone. You know, those of us, especially who are here, we're all very familiar with this idea of personal development. And in fact, you know, personal development is really happening all the time for each of us. But the question is, how is it happening? Is it happening smoothly and efficiently in directions that we care about? Or is it just kind of haphazard and not really moving or feeling stuck and difficult for any particular one of us? So personal development can be fun and exciting. You know, for me, it might be like some fun things might be learning a new sport or a new language, but it can also be very challenging, as some of you relate in your comments here. And so here are some of the common challenges with personal development that we see in ourselves and in our work with our clients. Often, we can find ourselves stuck in the same ruts, making little progress in areas that are important to us. It can be hard to see ourselves. Someone mentioned that on the board. Blind spots can really bite us in the butt and over and over again, right? And these blind spots are also often really pivotal in our effective personal development. Also, the feedback we get may be delivered in ways that trigger our defensiveness, making it that much harder to get the useful information in. Lack of accountability in our personal development can mean glacial progress, especially if the issue that we're working on is emotionally charged. And we can get pretty hard and judgmental on ourselves when we see the ways in which we could be different, but we aren't. And this self-judgment can throw roadblocks in the way of making progress. So today we're going to walk through some activities that will ease us into some of the personal development framings and practices that we've researched and synthesized into CoLab. And to get us rolling, we're going to take a little time to talk about this idea of leveraging the wisdom of your body. So essentially, you know, we all live as bodies. We sense our environments. We inhabit our relationships with ourselves and other people with our bodies. We act and engage with our bodies. We make decisions and we know what to do inseparable from our bodies. And so we grow and change with and as our bodies, and yet many of us, myself included, came to personal development from a very cognitive perspective, driven by intellectual ideas about my better self. And it's not that using our minds is bad. Frankly, it's necessary. It's just limited, right? And when it comes to growth and growing, our cognitive approaches can miss the mark because they fail to take in a bigger picture and a larger resource of our somatic intelligence. Therefore, the more facility we have with our bodily awareness, including how to listen to, support it, and shift our experience, the better we'll be able to show up in our lives and work and to create the world that we want for ourselves and others around us. So in essence, our cognitive efforts to grow may be throwing away the powerful resource of our somatic awareness and missing out on its pivotal ability to create adaptive change. So on that note, let's give this a try right here, right now together. So take a moment and just settle yourself into your seat. If you'd rather stand, please do. If you'd be more comfortable turning off your video, feel free to do that. But basically just want you to settle for a moment and close your eyes and sense inwardly. Take a few breaths and notice. What is the most obvious thing about your bodily experience right now? And what draws your attention to it? How does it feel? Take a few more moments just listening to the bodily sensations that are part of yourself. Now shift your focus and notice your breathing, and let your breathing become smoother. 2 counts in and 2 counts out. And no need to force things, just relax into a rhythm that feels natural. And take a moment now to pay attention to your feet. Feel them in contact with the ground. See if you can imagine that you are inside your feet. Bring your awareness to the insides of your feet. Imagine that you inhabit the insides of your feet. And continue to feel the contact with the ground. Now gently ask yourself, what is it that I most want to work on in myself? If you have several answers, pick the most emotionally charged one, the one that means the most to you. See if you can feel in your heart the yearning for that change. Take a few moments with that. And listen with your heart if you can name what that change goal is with 3 to 5 words. And when you're ready, bring your attention back to your whole body again. Is anything different? What do you sense now? And as you're ready, open your eyes and just gently look around the room you're in, still feeling yourself and also gently taking in the space around you. And as you bring your attention back to our screens, turn your video back on if you turned it off. We're going to give you just a minute to write down what you identified as your personal change goal, what we call our personal development topic. Make it as succinct as possible. So I'll give us just a minute right now. So we're going to share some examples with you in just a moment. And but I wanted to just sort of underscore the richness of paying attention to and working with our bodily, emotional, somatic experience. It's a great way to gain insight as we just demonstrated, hopefully in the above activity. And it's also a really helpful tactic for staying grounded amidst the inevitable overwhelm of leadership and facilitation. So a really useful tool to practice regularly for yourself. So here are some examples of what we call topics, personal development topics. And whatever your topic is for yourself, we'll be sort of following that thread through the rest of this webinar here together. And so the next idea that we want to build on with you here is the power of looking carefully and kindly at what we call our current way. So the idea of the current way comes from Integral Coaching Canada, and it's essentially the combination of feelings, thoughts, bodily responses, all kinds of responses and reactions that we encounter again and again when it comes to our topic, that change goal that you just identified for yourself. It's really the part of our whole self system that seeks to sustain us and keep us safe by maintaining our current status quo. Many aspects of our current way might be sub or unconscious to us. In other words, we may be unaware of the full extent of our current way, and this is normal. Our current way was likely established a long time ago when we were trying to manage a life situation that was harmful or unworkable or overwhelming, and our self system was seeking a way to deal with it, right? And so this current way was constructed, and it's now been repeated over and over again for years. This particular set of thoughts, feelings, and behaviors becomes a rote way of being. And the beauty of our current way around our topic is that we established it to protect and serve us. And should we bring honest inquiry to ourselves and seek feedback from others who know us well, we can come to understand its parts and its reason for being. This compassionate self-seeing and understanding is really an essential first step to making real and lasting change. So without sort of starting where we're at and really understanding our current way around our topic, our attempts to change often fall flat or fail entirely, or we get partly to the change that we're seeking, but not the full way. And so let's take a few minutes together to explore our current way. So this would be a good moment for your journal again. And up on the screen, we'll see some questions in a moment. We want you to just write down what first comes to mind in response to any or all of these prompts. You don't have to answer all of them. You'll have about 3 minutes, but do respond at least to the second question, the one that's in bold, because we'll be building on that in our next exercise together. So let's take a moment right now to do some journaling.
And for those that are on phone right now, I think there's at least 2 people. I'll read some of these questions. So if you're focusing on writing, you can maybe turn your sound off for a second so I'm not distracting you. But turn it back on. So one is, why is your topic important to you, or the area, the growth that we mentioned in the last activity? What are you doing or not doing that is getting in the way of making progress on your topic? And that's the one that should be bolded. Mm-hmm. And what feedback have you gotten about your topic, maybe from other people, from experiences? How is your current way impacting others? What are your strengths and weaknesses around your topic? And how are the systems and structures in your life impacting or impacted by your current way? I'll just give you some silence to answer those.
Yeah, so just about another 1.5 minutes of writing. All right, so wrap up your sentence that you're working on. And we'd love to hear what stood out for you from that exercise. You can use the chat box to share with us, including any questions you have. We're going to have a chance to share a little bit more directly, just a little bit later on. But right now, we just want to, if there's anything bubbling up for you, please go ahead and share it in the chat box. And we'll move us into our next idea, our next practice, which builds on this idea of our current way. And so the most important sort of concept we want to convey with this is that we often, when approaching our personal development and we discover we have a current way of being around something, can end up feeling very frustrated and angry with ourselves for it and judgmental about this current way that we have that is problematic. And the key reframe we want to offer here is that our ability to embrace our current way, or what we call a competing commitment, is really catalytic in terms of being able to make change here. And so this idea of a competing commitment, which was developed by researchers Keating and Leahy, helps us to make sense of our current way by helping us identify the terrible possibility that our current self-system was established to protect us from. So trying to barge through or force ourselves to change without understanding, accepting, and really honoring our competing commitment is key to making the change we really want to make. And so simply seeing and understanding our competing commitment is a huge step, and yet it's alone insufficient usually to create real and sustained change. As we'll outline a little further on, but it's a necessary exploration for us to get in, understand what is the foundational commitment that we made to ourselves that's resulted in our current way. And so the basic idea of how to get there is to look back at that list of behaviors you just identified in the journaling exercise. Now, what are you doing or not doing around your topic that's contributing to your topic being the way it is? And if you look through that list, find the one that sort of jumps out, that feels the most problematic to you, has the most energy or juice for you. Just pick one. You can always come back and do the rest later, but just pick one for now. And now imagine yourself doing the opposite of that behavior. And we're going to give you some examples here in just a moment, but just imagine yourself doing the opposite of that behavior. What is that gut fear that comes up in you when you imagine yourself doing the opposite? Now, if you can identify that fear, the work is to rephrase that as that problematic behavior as a commitment to protecting you from the thing that you're afraid of. The thing you're afraid is going to happen. And so let's take a look at some of the examples here, because this is can sometimes be a little tricky to sort of uncover for oneself. But here you go. This is one I'm really familiar with, the first one. I'm always so busy. And really the competing commitment here is to keep my negative feelings and memories at bay. And another one, really common experience for many of us, procrastination, right? So one student who went through this was looking at, hey, it's actually protecting me from facing failure and the feelings that come with that. And another one that many of us are familiar with is being perfectionistic. And so the competing commitment underneath that might be, it protects me from others finding fault with me. It's easier if I find fault with myself first, right, and try to fix it rather than wait to get the critique from someone outside of myself. So we're going to take just another couple of minutes to give you some chance to reflect on your own, see if you can identify your competing commitment. And there are some writing prompts on the screen for you there. If you've got any questions about this, please do drop them into the chat box.
And just to give people a heads up, after this, we'll be breaking out into groups, so you can kind of get into some of, if something doesn't come up for you, you can learn from other people about what's coming up for them and just try to get somewhere with it. But we'll be breaking out so you can talk to other people about what's happening.
Just another 30 seconds or so. All righty. So bring your attention back to our group here. And to give us a chance to explore, what we're learning here about ourselves, we're going to break you out into small groups of 3. And in your breakout, we'd like you to go in alphabetical order by first name, and you'll each have about 2 minutes to share. I'd like to invite you to share your topic and then list the top 3 things that you're doing or not doing that contribute to your current way, and then take a crack at identifying your competing commitment, that promise you made to yourself. So, and if there's time, the listeners who are listening can offer appreciations and questions, but we want to be sure everyone has a chance to share. So on that note, Rebecca, will you break us out?
Yes. And it looks like 3 to 4 people will be in each group with our situation here. How many people we have?
Nice.
Here we go. Okay. You can accept joining a breakout room.
Okay.
Okay, it looks like you're supposed to go on, so they'll only have 2. I'm going to join them for a second and just let them know to go ahead.
Okay, great. That sounds good. Thanks.
Oh. Looks like I muted all participants accidentally.
Okay.
They'll unmute themselves.
Okay, good.
Oh no.
Did you just disconnect everyone? What did you do?
I think so.
Oh no. How'd you do that?
Oh no, I didn't. They're all in progress. And I can broadcast a message to everyone.
Great.
And this was all recorded, so that's great.
No worries. So we're coming up on, got another 30 seconds for the first person. Do you want to, I'll let you know it's at 2 minutes. You want to just jump in and let them know it's time to switch?
Mm-hmm.
Technology. Okay, it's 2 minutes.
People may need time to like unmute themselves, so I'll just say it's been 2 minutes, try to switch soon.
Great. Oh, interesting. So you can type it in.
Did you get that?
I did.
As a chat or?
No, it's an announcement in blue at the top of the screen. Yeah. And how many groups have 4? Can you see?
None, because someone left.
Okay.
So there's 2 groups of 3 and 1 group of 2.
All right. 2 groups of 3 and 1 group of 2. So that's 11 people. Nice.
Mm-hmm. I think 2 people. 2 people dropped off, which I think is common for interaction.
That's true. Oh, I don't want to actually be on the hot seat. Yeah. I understand. I asked just because if there was a group of 4, we'd want to give them a little more time. Okay, coming up on the next 2 minutes.
Okay. Should I tell them?
Mm-hmm. Nice.
And then you're bringing them back in, right? Or is that me?
You mean once we bring them back from the breakouts, I think it's you. Yep.
Okay.
Yep, it's the sharing to the whole group. Thank you all for that rich engagement at the bottom of page 10.
Okay.
I can do it if you want me to. Yeah.
It maybe makes sense for you too.
Okay. Okay, we're coming up on the end of the third 2 minutes. Would you just let them know they have another 30 seconds or so, and we'll be bringing them back? Okay. Okay, good.
Close all around.
Cool. Yep.
Okay, coming back. Oh, breakouts will, they have 60 seconds to leave there.
Oh, once you hit the come back, they take 60 seconds. Interesting. That's good to know. So I have a feeling we're going to run over.
Maybe we should, well, you want to mention that now? Say it looks like we're,
Yeah.
I can say it, or you want to?
Decisions. Yeah, why don't you go ahead and do that, and then I'll invite them to share a little bit.
Great. Welcome back, everybody. I hope that was rich. And we are going to take some time to share to the whole group and then talk about some opportunities coming up and then take some time for Q&A. So we may run like a few minutes, 5 or so minutes after the hour. So for those who have to leave, that's totally understandable. But just wanted to let you know that we'll have a Q&A right at the end. And so you know what to expect for the next 20 or so minutes, 15, 20 minutes. So pass it back to you, Cecile.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear what you all uncovered for yourselves in your breakouts. So just want to spend a few minutes inviting any of you that would like to share what your topic is, what your competing commitment might be. You can think of these as perhaps your New Year's intentions, but just either use the chat box, or we'd love to hear your voice too. So feel free to unmute yourself and share whatever is coming up for you.
Great. Thanks for that feedback, Anna.
I couldn't absorb everything that was proposed. So, and my partner felt the same way, which was kind of comforting.
Nice. Yes. Yes.
So we were able to go back over some of what you said. And that was basically what our conversation was about, was catching up on what you said, because there was more, certainly, than I could absorb or do.
That makes complete sense.
But that was, it was very helpful. Just that was really helpful.
Great. And anything stand out for you personally from that experience?
Well, that the person I was working with and I were on the same page. That was really nice. And it was nice to hear, what that person was doing, what their project was, and where their involvements were. I liked that a lot.
Nice, thank you. Yeah. Anyone else care to unmute and share your experience?
I can share briefly. I took a screen capture of the slide that had the 3 instructions on it. So I used that for our group because we were catching like kind of what we were doing, and then I think that helped. And I appreciated. It was brief. It was one of those kind of lightning round sort of spaces, but I thought it was very rich in terms of the added perspective just of sharing with other people. Kind of adds that layer of perspective. And while I'm familiar with the concept of competing commitment, like that type of analysis, it was great to apply it to this. So I'm grateful for the experience.
Thank you. Yeah. And it's helpful to know that the slide with the instructions didn't carry with you into the breakouts. So we'll figure out a workaround for that next time. Yeah. And thank you. Anyone else care to join the airwaves?
I wanted to just say that we ended up with sort of a common thread in our small group, as identified by Lindsay in our group. She noticed that it seemed like we were all kind of seeking permission in one way or another from ourselves to do whatever it is we need to do, whether it's do more self-care or have more patience, or have some sense of self-validity without seeking that sort of support or validity from others.
Nice. Lovely. That's really fun when there's a theme across our development, isn't it? Definitely lends a certain sense of not being alone. I think that's certainly one of my experiences with personal development, is often feeling very sort of isolated or alone in that. So glad you had a little bit of solidarity. That's wonderful. And just to circle back to Anne's comments and Anna's comments, I think these concepts and ideas could take months or years to really sort of gel and serve you ongoingly. And so please do, take this as just a little taste, a little dip in the water of what's possible for yourself. And one of the biggest things that we find helps people is to be able to do this in groups with others, because we have both the opportunity to hear and learn and support each other, but also a chance to sort of be more accountable to the changes we want to see happen for ourselves. And so really encourage you to find that or create that or come join one of our trainings, because that's part of what the richness is being able to share in this growth together on a lot of fronts. So thank you, everyone. Really appreciate your jumping in. And I'm going to pass it to Rebecca to share a little bit about what we've got coming up for you and move us into the Q&A.
So I'm just going to share this screen again. So in terms of thinking forward, we've kind of crafted the end of our year with this strategically, with this assessment of ourselves and thinking about kind of the individual, but as we're a part of a collective. And then our next webinar is in December, and it's going to be on strategic planning, specifically for collaboratives or cooperatives that are doing this democratically, or like not just a few people in the room. So we'll be offering some ways that you can do that, some core parts of the method that we use with our clients to support you in an organized, collaborative, and relevant strategic planning practice. And what I mean by relevant is not something that's going to sit in a binder for 3 to 5 years. We often revisit our strategic initiatives whenever we feel like we're like, what are we doing? And that's what we suggest, since we are living in an age that just changes in a moment. So we'll offer some practices and tips for that. In December, I'll send you out that registration so you can look for that. And then the other thing is I kind of want to get a sense from everyone before I suggest the next thing about which I want to pick your brains about which one of these topics resonates the most with you. So if you could put the number that it's correlating to in the chat box, that would be helpful. I'm just kind of curious about, so the numbers are for those that can't see the screen, is 1 is developing a somatic practice to handle overwhelm. And if none of them, put none. 2 is building collaborative facilitation skills. 3, strengthening alignment and accountability in yourself and your team. 4 is building community and hashing out real-world complexities in democratic management. 5 is taking rapid collective decision-making to the next level. Great, thanks for participating. If you're willing to, please do. You can say all of the above if you want also. And the reason why I did that is I have a little notification. No. Okay, so I want to offer to you all that it sounds like okay, I'm going to step back. I didn't quite think this through as well as I could have. So it sounds like there's something about collaboration that all of these things connect to. And so what we've done is we are focusing on supporting our leaders on making both tangible and subtle progress in these areas. And we do that through these webinars, through our free resources, and we also offer a community support through our level 1 course, which a lot of you probably know about. A lot of your names look familiar. And so I just want to offer that in the new year, if this is something you're interested in, that this is an opportunity. So I'm not going to go too deep into this, but people we have a lot of people that are in cooperatives, that are community organizers, that are coaches and nonprofit directors really meld together to hash out what is really needed to focus on sharing power in our teams. So we offer this training for those who are interested in just really diving in that community support. And it's online. It starts in February. So just want to plant the seed for those who are interested. It is, we do have scholarships and payment plans. So for those who are interested in the finance part is an issue, please let us know. And we focus on all of those 5 things. So I kind of did a tricky thing there. But it was interesting to hear about what people thought before I did that. So thank you for still participating. And I will send out a little bit more about the free informational call in January, which is January 10th. So you can learn more about the details and hear about what it's like from past students if you're interested. So you don't only hear it from me, the person who is offering it to you. And applications are open now. So if you're already interested in starting that process, you can apply, and I'll send that to you after this. So with that, I want to circle back to any questions that people might have, and or any comments about what this brought up for you, any aha moments. And while you brew that question, I want to offer one that was asked to us via email before this to approach, just to kind of get it started. So someone had asked us, how do we address personal development needs in a team setting, knowing that in a collaborative team setting? So I just want to offer that to you, Cecile.
Thank you, Rebecca. And yeah, it's a great question. And frankly, many of us can encounter our growing edges as we're working with other people. We get those sort of reflections back in the form of feedback or things that don't go so well. So teams are a very, very powerful place to work on our personal development. And it's critical to have an effective container for doing that, because otherwise it can end up not working at all or blowing up. So within CoLab, we offer a personal development module that walks us through, much like we did today. It starts with building a topic and then looking at your current way. And then from there, we go into practice development. And there's very concrete ways in which we develop practices that are targeted directly at what your particular topic is. And that's all self-reflection work you do. Share it back with the team, get to support each other with each of our own personal development projects. And that's one of the very powerful and subtle mechanisms in having a personal development practice as a team, is that everyone has one. All of us have things we need to and can work on. And so it sort of equalizes the playing field. It shares power in a lot of ways to each of us have this thing that we're working on. With opportunity to receive appreciation, support, and feedback from our colleagues who know us well. You know, if we're working together, we have a chance to really get to know each other in ways that it's unique and very rich and powerful in terms of our personal development.
Great, thank you.
Ah.
And I will just add to that for myself is that I think it's a shift from the traditional manager one-on-one situation that we often have, where often managers will, in my experience, will kind of tell me what I should do, like what should my personal development, where I should be growing, which is helpful, but it's not the full picture of kind of owning your personal development for yourself and then getting feedback about where that growth can go. So it's just it's a big shift, but it can seem small in some ways. So it's really powerful. Thanks, Cecile.
Mm-hmm.
How about what are other questions or things that are coming up for people on the call?
One of the questions for me is, not everyone in our leadership team is interested or in personal development. You know, so when it comes to like our leadership team, like that's something that we've kind of suggested, but not everyone is as invested in that. So how do we make that? Yeah, that's like just a question.
That's a really rich and relevant question. Thank you for bringing it up. Frankly, a lot of us may have had bad experiences with personal development and come to these team contexts not really wanting to engage. And so the simple way to start with this is to be aware of what perhaps some of the technical changes, technical personal development skills that an individual might need to do their job better, right? It could be, you know, if you're a finance professional, maybe the simple personal development that you need to engage in is to get a little better educated about the new tax law, for example, right? And so starting with things that really meet the person where they're at is an easy way to sort of onboard people who may be reluctant. The other key piece is that it's key that everyone on the team is doing it, and that's the expectation that's built in. However, gently and consistently that's woven in, so that no one's singled out for being like, oh, you need to grow, you know, right? That sort of judgment attitude can't happen if we're all sort of in it together. And so starting with some more technical and very clear development needs that a person might have is helpful. And then the second is just to build that in as part of your regular team meeting practices. And that's something that I could explore more directly with you, depending upon your context. That would it could be set up in a variety of different ways. But great question.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. If you have any follow-up questions, feel free to offer that. And I think I'll just add a little bit that it might also, one of my questions would be why? Why do people not want to? Do they feel like they don't need to? Is it time? Is it kind of vulnerability? So that's something I just want to offer to you, which you may have already reflected on, but just that can often reveal how you kind of get around that.
Nice.
What approach to take. Before we have time for maybe one more question, if anyone has a burning one. All right. Well, these are our emails. And you will have them as well. I can send that out to you so you know how to contact us if something does come up. We also have our self-care challenge, which is free and goes a little bit deeper into this as well. If you would like to have more spaciousness to dive into these materials, which I'll send out to you after this too, for those who aren't in it. A lot of people are, so that were on this call. That's an option. Great. Well, feel free to open your mics and say goodbye. Thank you everyone for joining us and diving in.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right.
Everyone.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.